Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome to the Rose Code podcast, where we gather to journey through the sacred cycles of life, turning pain into power and wounds into wisdom. I'm Katie, your spiritual guide and mentor, here to support you on your healing and wellness path. Together, we'll explore deep, transformative practices that awaken the divine feminine, helping you reclaim your power and thrive. Every month, we come together for our live moon ritual, celebrating the new and full moon with sacred ceremonies. Be sure to check the details below to join next month's ritual and immerse yourself in yoga, meditation, divine feminine activations, and our vibrant community calls. Let's dive in and transform together.
Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome to this podcast. And so many of my clients and students and people that I meet have this misconception of me that I am Zen and always floating around the place and that I've always been like that. And I can tell you now that is very wrong. And I always get asked, how and why did I start with yoga? So, this podcast is about the yoga path, my journey to sacred alignment. So, grab your favorite cup of tea, a journal perhaps, and let's dive right in. So, this podcast actually makes me feel quite emotional because, as the saying goes, no good stories starts with a salad. And like most of us who have been catapulted onto our spiritual journey, it has probably been um, a side effect from a trauma or some horrendous life experience. So for me, it all started in 2015 when I was in Australia and I had a car accident, which left me with a C4, 5, and 6 spinal fusion or break, which resulted in a spinal fusion and having a metal plate with 4 screws attached to the back of my neck. So that's how I began, I suppose, this journey of hitting rock bottom and trying to find your way back up again. So from that event, I had to move home. I couldn't drive or look after myself. And it was like, going back home at the age of, I think I was 25 at the time, and having your parents to do everything for you and drive you around and being stranded out in the countryside, it was like, oh, my worst nightmare, especially for someone who's super adventurous and independent. So I was really met with a lot of grief, anger, sadness, despair, kind of like, the questions that we all ask, why me? And, what is my life going to result in? So my dear mother, maybe she will listen to this one day. She has always been into yoga for the last even longer than I'm alive. So probably 37 years, 38 years, I suppose. And she has always told me, oh, you should do yoga. Yoga would be really good for you. And I was like, not a hope. If you're doing yoga, I'm definitely not doing yoga. And yoga is just for hippies. It's too slow for me. And, I just have no interest whatsoever because I loved the gym and spinning and weight training and anything that was super high intense and fast. But of course, with a spinal injury and a cast around my neck, I couldn't do those things. All I could do was walk. So yeah, when I moved home, I suppose out of desperation, my mother was like, would you not just come and try yoga? Like, at least you can do that gentle exercise. I was like, at this point, I will try anything. So I went in like the Antichrist, just trying to get out of the house, I suppose. And the beautiful teacher who was definitely put on my path Um, I walked in with a neck brace, and I think she was only literally after qualifying for her 200 hours. And my mother had explained, like, I had the car accident, I have a neck brace on, would it be okay if I attended? And she said yes. So obviously the look of shock on her face, I was like, oh great, here I am, like standing out like a sore thumb. But when I sat down on the mat and we started the practice, everything changed for me in that moment, from feeling at rock bottom to feeling elated. Like, everybody talks about that yoga high, and I got that within the first 3 to 4 minutes of sitting on the mat. And through that hour or hour and a half, things began to shed, and I began to let go of the heaviness, of the emotions, of the story I was telling myself, of the accident, of everything that I was holding on to, and I was free. So on that little rectangular mat was like 10 years of therapy. So it was really astonishing to me how something like that can have such a profound effect. And I was a non-believer, like I was a complete skeptic. And, as they say, what you resist is what you need most. So I was completely hooked. And I went back again the next week. And I think I went twice a week until the neck brace came off. So that must have been for 6 weeks. So I must have done 12 sessions, and I was absolutely addicted. I was so in love with yoga, and I dragged my best friend along, and she was going through a very hard time with a very sick, terminally ill family member. So me, my mum, and my best friend religiously went to this yoga class and religiously went to this amazing teacher, an angel sent from the heavens. Um, yeah, so that's where it all started in 2015. And then my brother passed away in November of the same year. And the only thing that I remember during that time that I committed to was showing up to yoga, because I knew that was like the cornerstone of holding my life together on for that hour on that mat. And my mother came along as well, and we were like, we actually don't know how we made it to the class. We just arrived on the mat. It was like we were teleported from our house to the mat and teleported home. Nothing really else outside of that made sense or mattered, but the only thing that we were drawn back to and committed to was yoga. And it was obviously, honestly, a lifesaver. It was that ring that just kept us afloat, and that we could do together, that we didn't have to speak or share anything or do anything. It was just get on the mat. So I was working at the time as a sales rep for a cosmetic company. So I was in hotel rooms 5 days a week. And my first love online was Yoga with Adriene. And I'm sure many of you have come across her now at this point, because she is a household name for yoga. But I used to bring my yoga mat and do yoga once or twice a day on the road. And again, I was religious at doing it because it just brought me so much peace. And that feel good feeling afterwards, you just can't buy it. Like, it's just, I can only ever reach that state of being by being on the mat, by practicing yoga. Um, so I continued on, and I remember that yoga teacher saying to me, "Well, like, you really have taken to this practice. Would you not think of doing the yoga teacher training?" So I jumped online, and I was going to India. So within the space of not even a year, I was then had quit my job, um, and I was in India doing my 200 hours. So actually, another event happened before that. I was in America at my cousin's christening, and we were in Bryant Park, and there was a yoga teacher teaching in the middle of the park, and she was teaching like maybe 100 people. And I looked at her up on the stage and I was like, I could do that. And I didn't mean it in an egotistic way, but I could see myself up there teaching yoga because she was just so passionate. She was just there for the people. She was just sharing what she loved. And I was like, wow, like, that's possible for me. Like, so after that, I think I came home and I was so unhappy in my job and I was just, oh, again, at rock bottom in grief and just like having enough with the rat race. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to take my teacher's advice and apply for yoga teacher training. So in August 2016, I was in Rishikesh, the home of yoga, the home of the Beatles ashram, and here I was. And I don't know what expectations I had, but it was like a boot camp. And because I'm not naturally flexible, most Irish and English people are not naturally flexible because we are so tense and tight, whereas say French or Italian or Spanish, they're much more expressive in their bodies. And plus having a spinal injury as well, I was very limited to what I could do. So besides the rigorous schedule from 5:30 in the morning until 9 o'clock at night, I just felt like I was back at school and kind of pushed to one side because I couldn't do what everyone else could do. And it was really a point where I felt like it had pulled me apart in so many ways, like ego, personality, like every aspect of me was kind of like crumbled. And I was like, oh my God, I'm absolutely useless at this. What in the name of God was I thinking? Like, I'm never going to be a teacher. I'm never going to be able to teach anyone this if I can't even do these poses myself. Because, yoga was created originally for the Indian army. So it was created for men. And it's very rigid and it's very strict. And, it has to be done a certain way. And I was like, this is not the yoga that I fell in love with. This is like, if I do eventually end up teaching, like, do I want to teach in this way? So I was really doubting everything. So halfway through my yoga teacher training, I was like, I definitely want to stay in India. There's something about India that really has my heart. And so I rang the travel agent and I was like, look, extend it for another 3 months. And everybody, they not only thought I was absolutely crazy giving up my job, but going to India by myself was like, you're a young woman, like it's very, very dangerous. What are you thinking? I was like, I just knew that there was something there for me, and I knew that I had to be there. So I got my yoga teacher training certificate, met the most wonderful people, had an enlightening experience, well, a very embodied experience, very humbling experience. Um, so off I went traveling the length and breadth of India in search of I don't know what exactly, but I was just going from intuition to somebody suggesting to go to this place and that place. And I was really just open to following my heart and trusting that this is where I'm meant to be and this is what I'm meant to be doing. So lo and behold, each and every place, whether it was Varanasi or Manali or um, Varkala or all of the other wonderful places that I traveled, that I would meet a teacher. And because it was low season, there was very little travelers. So I would meet these teachers and gurus who would train me one to one and basically show me how to do yoga for me. So over those 3 months traveling by myself, I was basically mentored by all of these gurus and yoga teachers. And then I really fell in love with yoga because they weren't trying to teach me how to do handstands or headstands or, all of the fancy poses that you see on Instagram, on the internet. They showed me therapeutic yoga. They showed me healing yoga. They showed me yoga for everybody and not just the super flexible and fit people. And I was like, wow, this is like incredible. This is the kind of yoga that I want to teach to real people that, want to do it for the healing aspect and not for the ego aspect of mastering a handstand. And there's nothing wrong with that either. If you can do a handstand or a headstand or splits or anything like that, amazing. But there is no goal to yoga. Yoga is a practice. And sitting in Sukhasana, easy pose, or lying in Shavasana is as beneficial as being able to do the splits or a headstand. So, yeah, it was truly magical how I ended up, well, it was the universe, I suppose, or I believe that was guiding me to all of these teachers and these places. Like India is a pretty big country. So the fact that I ended up in these places is just, yeah, only the universe can know why or how I ended up there. So after that, I came home and I started teaching yoga in 2017. And that's basically all I wanted to do. I just wanted to teach yoga. I just wanted to share this practice with everybody. And I wanted to do it in a way that met people where they were at. So I made the decision not to use Sanskrit names, just to use the English terms, because it's like yoga is challenging enough without trying to remember, oh, did she say Trikonasana or did she say Sukhasana? I don't know which is which. So not only is the mind doubting or trying to interpret what she's saying, but then I feel, well, it definitely put me off. So if it put me off, it surely put the people that I'm attracting off. And yes, knowing the Sanskrit names of the poses is super beneficial and has another element and vibration in itself. But like for me, I like to keep things so simple and straightforward. And the less that I have to think and the more that I can be in my body, the better. And that has been my way of teaching now for nearly a decade. So, and a lot of the students, well, most of the students I've taught over the years have no interest in trying to accomplish the splits or headstands or anything like that. So that for me was proof. They were just there to get on the mat and to just disconnect from the world and reconnect with themselves in that 60 minutes. And it's so funny because I entered into yoga through the physical aspect. And over the years, it began to peel away and chip away at all of the constructs of the mind and all of the BS that, like, I thought about myself and the world and the realities. And it then, the spiritual aspect really started to come through. And I love it when they come in and like, I'm just here to stretch. I'm like, yeah, that's fine. But you just wait. And I always say it to them. I'm like, you just wait and see. The rest will come. And um, surely after 6 months to a year, they're like, yeah, you are right. It's much more than the physical practice. I'm like, yeah, like yoga finds you. You don't start yoga. Yoga comes into your life when you need it most. And I find that as well, like a lot of people will start yoga and get into the practice, and then there'll be some life event that will happen, and they're like, oh my God, I'm so grateful that yoga is in my life because it supported me through X, Y, and Z, or like loss of a loved one, or a job, or a pregnancy, or all of the different things we experience through life that can be quite uprooting and life changing. Yoga is this tonic, this secret pill that just like can be prescribed to anything that's happening in your life. Um, so And they always say to me as well, it's like, yeah, if yoga was a drug, it would be illegal. I'm like, yeah, I totally agree with that, because what you get from it is indescribable, and it lasts for days and weeks, and you you just have to get on the mat and the rest will happen, whether you do yin yoga, ashtanga, hot yoga, kundalini yoga. Like, it really doesn't matter what yoga, as long as you connect with the teacher. That's all that matters, because it's that relationship, that guidance, that you will receive the most benefit from. Because it's like when you turn on a meditation, if you don't like the voice of the practitioner or the teacher, you're going to resist the practice or the meditation. So yeah, if you're thinking of joining or starting a yoga class, definitely don't allow your first yoga class to put you off, because I always say to my students, like, try different teachers, go to different classes, because each one will teach you something, not just about the practice, but about what you like and your capabilities, and where you can go with the practice. And well, for me anyway, I find I just, once I find a teacher, I stick with that teacher. And of course, I, go elsewhere and try other things, but it always makes me so grateful for the teachers that I have. Um, and yeah, yoga was definitely one of those life-changing practices in my life that have opened so many doors. Like, the basis of my business was started by yoga. And I remember everybody saying to me, you'll never make money from yoga. Like, you'll never make a sustainable living income from yoga. I was like, okay, right. Watch this space. And again, nearly a decade later, here I am with a successful business, thriving, and have taught hundreds of people yoga at this stage. And many more for, yeah, as long as I can get on the mat, I'll be teaching yoga. And how I teach and how my business runs now is completely different from when I started. I started teaching 15 yoga classes a week at one point to completely teaching online now, and at retreats and workshops. So, yeah, yoga is in every element and aspect of my life, and has changed with me over the years, and has changed the lives of my students and how they practice yoga. So some of them still go to weekly yoga classes with other teachers. Some of them have moved online. Some do a hybrid where they do online and in the Rose Code community, my monthly membership, or they go to other teachers, or they come to retreats and workshops. So it's like, yeah, it's yoga is so available to all of us, but we have to show up on the mat to receive the benefits, and to really allow yoga to weave its way into our life. And what I love about it as well is it really activates my feminine energy, because when I get on the mat to do yoga, I'm just being. I'm not thinking about anything else or trying to do anything else, only yoga. So it connects me with my body, it connects me with my breath, it connects me with my flexibility, my creativity. Like, I'm always a better person and moving at a more gentler pace when I get off the mat. And that's all about awakening and supporting your feminine energy. So, yeah, I hope this has given you some insight into the yoga path that I have been on. Um, Perhaps you're in the middle of your yoga journey, or, well, we never really get to the end of our yoga journey, to be honest, because it's ever unfolding, never ending. Um, and if you're thinking about starting yoga, just start, because if the thought is there, yoga is waiting for you. Yoga is waiting to weave its way into your life and begin the healing process. And who knows who it'll bring into your life or what opportunities or experiences. But unless you take that chance And a lot of people say, oh, I'm not flexible. You don't have to be flexible to do yoga. Yes, yoga will make you flexible in your body and in your mind, but you don't have to be flexible to start yoga. It's like the same with the gym. People are like, oh, I'm not fit enough to go to the gym. I'll start the gym when I lose a few pounds. It's like, if you go to the gym, you will lose the weight or you'll tone up or you'll get stronger, but you have to go to the gym or do at home workouts to achieve that. So don't let the mind get in the way. Yoga is accessible to everybody. And I always say, if you can breathe, you can do yoga, because a lot of people aren't challenged by the poses, they are challenged by their breath. So it's about inhaling and exhaling. So if you can do that, yoga is for you. And remember, like me, if you're resisting it, it is definitely the medicine for you. And if you want a way in which you can do yoga more regularly, in a more convenient way, in your pajamas, in front of the fire, and in the comfort of your own home, I extend the invitation to you to join the Rose Code community, where we practice all types of yoga from Hatha, Kundalini Yoga, breath work, and so much more. So I'll link the community down below where you can start today for less than 150 a day. So it's a fraction of the price of a yoga class. And you can do as many as you like every day or whenever you have free time. But yeah, I really hope that this has inspired you to start your yoga journey and your transformation awaits on your mat. So, as always, if you've made it to the end of the podcast, thank you so much for listening. It's such a pleasure and honor to be able to share these insights and experiences and life journeys with you all. And if you have any suggestions about future podcasts or topics you'd like me to cover, please link or put them in the comments below. But I'm sending you so much love, and I look forward to connecting you with the next podcast. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you for listening. If you're looking for more, don't forget to check out the Rose Code community in the description below.